Well, good evening to all of you. What is going on? My name is Jamel Tony, and welcome to Progressively Becoming.
Hey everybody, I'm Lakeisha. Welcome to Progressively Becoming. We are back tonight, y'all.
We are back. It's been a while.
It's been a minute. But as you're getting on, as always, make sure you like, comment, and share. And let somebody know PB is on now. We are on and in the building. Yes.
I've waited weeks for her to say in the building. Welcome to all of you watching us on all of our streaming platforms. Perhaps you're on Facebook. What's going on YouTube? What's happening? Those of you that's streaming on our website, www.progressivelybecoming.com. Good evening to all of you. In the words of the late, great Carlton Pearson, how y'all doing? We are extremely excited about what is going down tonight.
Oh yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait. I can't wait for the conversation. Y'all know how we do here on PB. Y'all know it could get, funky. So get ready, buckle up, and hold on tight. We don't know what folk gonna say tonight, but I am excited. I'm excited, y'all.
Listen, disclaimer, we are not responsible for near none of them.
Near none.
So whatever they say, call them. Do not call us, call them. But we have assembled a phenomenal group of individuals from all across the United States that's just going to come and share with us their thoughts on the legacy and the impact of the one, the only, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Absolutely. So it's going down tonight here on PB. Like I said, make sure y'all tag someone, like, comment, share this. It's going to be on and popping.
That's it. Let's get those numbers up. Tiger friend, Tiger family member, tag someone that don't know Dr. King. I am excited
Please
about.
tell them if they don't know.
If they don't know Dr. King, they should be shamed.
They should be tagged for sure.
You should be shamed. Such a great man. And again, it is an honor to invite these individuals to the PB platform. Some you have seen, some you have not, but all of them are impeccable, thought-provoking individuals that I know would have you say, I didn't think about it like that.
That's right.
And so, family, listen, I want us to get to it. Without further ado, it's our relaunch. It is a return of PB. It is our virtual discussion on the legacy and the impact of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Listen, let's bring in our panel, and then they're going to go ahead and introduce themselves.
Yes.
What is going on, folks?
Hello.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
What's up, y'all?
Hey.
Grace and peace.
Y'all look so nice.
Grace and peace.
Grace and peace and grace.
Who said that?
Of course.
You already know who it was.
Grace and peace.
The name says itself.
Listen, I want you all. We're going to start with Mr. Grace and Peace himself. We're going to start with Mike Butler. And listen, let us know where you're coming from. Give us some introduction. Let the people know about you.
All right, I'm Christ Butler. I do pastor here in the city of South Bend, Indiana. That's the home of Notre Dame football. I'm not a Notre Dame fan. I'm an Ohio State fan, but either way. I'm excited about being here tonight and just sharing with you guys, looking for my perspective to be opened up and also to challenge people in thought as well. So let's have a good time. And thank you, by the way. Thank you.
Yo, what's going on, beautiful people? My name is Edward McFarland Jr., fresh out of H-Town, Houston, Texas. Go follow my podcast that I co-host with three of my other brothers, the Respect the Game podcast. And yeah, man, I'm looking forward to having a great night, great conversation here.
My name is Christian, and this is my wife, Latasha.
Hey.
We're down here in Charlotte, North Carolina, the Queen City. And we're the proud parents of 4 and 1 more next month. So God has been good. So looking forward to being able to chat tonight with all these intelligent folk. And yeah, let's get it.
Everybody, the name is Alonzo Tony. I live in Atlanta now. Originally from New York, so I've been down here for like a year. and definitely happy to be on this panel. I'm ready. It's cool. Let's have this conversation.
Let's do it. I'm Ty Butler. I am the son of our hosts, Jamel and Lakeisha. My wife's in the living room holding it down with our two kids. So I'm excited to be here. We do got to have a quick correction on some of the facts that we were presented with. James Earl Ray. They say
I agree with you.
They say he killed Martin Luther King Jr. None of us actually believe that, but you know,
I second that motion, my brother.
Conspiracy
started off Ty.
We'll let that conspiracy live on as long as it does. But I'm excited to be here tonight.
It's me. I am Joanne Allen Castillo. I am from Chicago. I am friends, and I call them family of the Tonys. I appreciate the invite. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
So yeah, I think it already made the turn, so we might as well just keep going in that direction. I want to make one note. Christian and Latasha, when you all mentioned that you are the parents of 4 with 1 on the way,
See,
Edward was like,
yo.
Well, we have 5 too, so.
Oh, listen,
Okay,
that's it. And what's your oldest?
My oldest now is 17.
Okay. We got the baseline. Our oldest is 5. We got 5, 4, 2, 1.
Yeah, I got a countdown.
We did a close.
they got a countdown.
It get better. When the older one get old enough, you say, just watch them. It don't matter.
we waiting to get there.
The Lord says, be fruitful and multiply and replenish. And the Butlers, they are replenishing the earth.
To the exponent.
So listen, fam, to all of you watching, once again, Tiger friend, Tiger family member, this is how we're going to do this. We're going to do 4 segments. In each segment, we are going to discuss a segment, just a snippet of the I Have a Dream speech by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. After we play that snippet, these phenomenal panelists are going to go ahead and we're going to ask them some questions. If you guys, anything that you guys want to ask or put in the chat, by all means, go ahead and do that. And if we have time, we would definitely get back to that. Are you guys ready? Let's do it. Let's do this, family. Here we go. All right, so this is our first question. We're going to label this segment the wealth condition. And we're going to play a snippet of Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech.
But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. And so we've come here today to dramatize a shameful condition.
Over 50 years ago, President Lyndon B. Johnson declared an unconditional war on poverty and signed the Economic Opportunity Act of 1964 and the Civil Rights Act of 1964 into law. The initiatives undertaken as part of the war on poverty were designed to improve the education, skills, health, and resources of low-income individuals and family to help them expand their productivity and ability to make ends meet and enhance their lifelong economic outcomes. However, to date, the poverty levels from 1964 to today remain only slightly changed. What do you think based on your observations, are the biggest hurdles to financial equality and material property in America amongst the minority community?
We're going to start with Pastor Christ Butler and then kind of just flow from there.
Okay. It's a lot to unpack, but I'll just start here. I think my basis would be knowledge and mentality. I think what we are suffering from, biggest thing is like, if you look at even in the African American culture, we are normally sworn to the Democratic Party because of the promises they make us of things that are free. So it's like, we're going to give you more of this. We're going to give you all these things. And I think it builds into that mentality. I know people who've been on welfare for 10 plus years and haven't tried to come off of it because they look at it not as a stepping stone, but more of free. And so I think for us, we need more knowledge. And I know more people are coming into wealth now, but I don't think it's in our school system to build a community of younger people who understand wealth and prosperity, because there are children, I've talked to children who of a different race in the ages of, let's say 13, 14, who understand checking and banking. And in our African-American culture, we don't understand credit cards till we mess it up when we 18 and get them. And so I think that we're starting behind already because the educational system has not been changed or improved since it started. We haven't changed the classes we give. I have never used geometry or any of trigonometry in my life, but it's still classes they give instead of things that help the natural life. And so I would say that in our minority communities, we have to start by demanding a better educational system that will cause them to teach what some children go home to is just a realm of poverty that they know, hey, the government will help you, and that is perpetuated through their life. All I know is mama said at home, she got food stamps, that's what I'm gonna do. And nobody else is teaching them. Give them an opportunity to go to another place by when they go to school. Let me learn something that maybe the child can even help the parent to come out of that place.
That's good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Edward.
Oh, yeah. Yes. For me, I would say the biggest hurdle is community. And what I mean by that is having social groups within our communities all over America that are geared specifically towards, okay, though we may not be getting taught this in our schools, okay, here's a after school program, not even just for kids, but for adults, that people could go to, be able to trust to say, hey, this is how you could handle your money, or say, hey, you may not necessarily deal with politics, but we deal with our local government that could, help pass policies easier, and through them and, the conversation that we have with them, we can be the middleman to come down here and serve you and tell you what you need to do and what you need to put in place to be able to take advantage of governmental opportunities to try to equal out, the materials that we have lacked for so many years and so forth, as well as the education and then the finances.
I could definitely agree with both. Both, I think it's like knowledge, resources, and in a sense of like, I thought about it when I was listening to Dr. King. Me and Christian talked about it earlier, but I said, who do we have in this moment of time that is like a huge Black leader, right? So back in the day, we had all these leader names, and they were, kind of like pushing this force and pushing all these things. Who are people looking to, right? And it's sad to say that people look for that. They look for that to kind of like follow, this is where I need to go. Right. Let's get on this bandwagon. When Black Lives Matter was super huge and big, everyone went on there automatically. But it's like, but who is the person that's speaking the right things to be able to bring in the knowledge and the resources of these like groups and everything? I don't think we have that. And I think in certain minority communities, people need that. So it's like, are we having community leaders really step up to the plate to be able to advocate for us, the right way? And I think that's our biggest hurdle right now, is we don't really have that in a sense. And whether people are afraid to step up to the plate, I don't know what it might be, but we don't have that to be able to really push what's needed in the community.
And I just add at the end that it has to be more than just one person. It has to be across the entire race, because we saw what, President Barack Obama running as president is not enough. Like, it has to be everybody. And it also comes on the onus of all of us to do our part. And I know that Mr. Butler was saying that the schools need to get better, but we also have to take some of the stuff ourselves, saying that it's our job to make sure that people are teaching and doing it in the community, because like the head people can only do so much. It's really the people on the ground floor that are doing most of the work, but it really falls just on everybody.
So what's the biggest hurdle to financial equality and material property in America amongst minority communities? And this kind of ties into like more of the questions that's going to come, but I feel debt and the education system itself is a huge hurdle. A lot of us, and not knowing how to build generational wealth, which some of y'all kind of touched on already, but like just coming out of college, you're already in debt, especially for a lot of minorities. You know what I'm trying to say? You're already $100,000 behind your counterparts whose parents either paid for them to go to school or they knew somebody there. You know what I'm trying to say? So it's just like, just debt itself. And I know like a lot of us, like, you know, when it comes to like going to HBCUs and things like that or whatever, they don't give no money. And like we were taught as young, being young, go to college. Our family is very much, especially my mom's side, it's just like, you got to go to college. Listen, I know some people that make way more than me and didn't go to college, and they don't have the debt that I have today. So, you know, if we kind of like really restructure that and, you know, really think about that as a people, but debt, that's one of the biggest hurdles right now.
I also think a lot of it is having to overcome that like psychological hurdle of like, we've been at such a massive disadvantage for so long. Like it feels like we're just in this cycle. Like it's not happenstance that, you know, the distribution of wealth in this country favors white America versus, you know, minorities. And that sets you just up on a path of like trying to overcome that consistently. And it affects, as you guys mentioned, the education system. And part of it too is like these schools are so under-resourced. It's hard to have classes dedicated toward just like, you know, having business acumen and setting yourself up for generational wealth. And when you incorporate like being in debt, that's another hurdle you have to overcome. So I think that like there's so much that has to do with the knowledge and just how far behind we are that leads to being in this cycle of, you know, having to overcome all of the play. And I also think too, like employment discrimination has a lot to do with it. Like we can't sit here and pretend that even if, you know, we're peak level education, we are, you know, doing everything possible that we can, we're all going to sit here and be successful, because the numbers would indicate that that's not what's going to happen. So all of that plays into it.
That's good, Joe.
I completely agree with. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I completely agree with what everybody is saying. The first thing that came to mind when I read the question is ignorance, which is kind of what was actually covered here. Our own ignorance, we limit ourselves. We put ourselves in a box. I'm not saying that's the complete reason. He just hit on it on one of my that irks me the most. Nepotism. How we are in the workplace or outside of the workplace. Actually, the favoritism that takes place. I'm going to bring my cousin in. I have no experience, you know, but I'm going to bring her in at the rate, you know, the same rate me, you know, and not able to. I thought I did something really good. You know, I got this great job, but then Becky, you know, she's, you know, over me all of a sudden when I've actually had to train her. So that kind of thing, mentally, you know, but that's just like an example of some of the foundational things that have taken place over the years. That's just a small example, some of the things that have taken place over over the years, and then we've internalized it, and we feel in this place and don't know how to get out of the box.
All of you guys mentioned to some extent something else, right? Where it was the educational system, the education that we received, it was our counterparts. It is there an issue with responsibility. Some of you mentioned about the need for resources. I would venture to say that there are multiple resources out there that is available to our communities. The question is, are they being utilized? So is it the lack of resources, or is it just we just don't want to do better?
Right. Yeah. That's a question. Yeah. Oh, I'll jump in because again, that goes back to my point I was trying to make, is that the reason why, and I know Christian how he addressed the educational part of what I said, but what I was making the point of is that if we put it in the school system, those parents who lack the integrity or the zeal to want to learn, maybe it will stop the cycle in their children. And so that's why I'm saying I don't think that they take advantage of the resources. Again, I've known people personally on the welfare system 10 plus years and won't try to get a job and don't care about gaining wealth or anything else, because this is just, I can live, I can do what I want to do, and I'm going to get my food stamps every month. I can buy food as long as I can eat. They paying for my house and I pay $10 a month. But it was a cycle for us. 5 children, we went through the stages of needing food stamps, right? Until the place where I'm like, now that I could really use it with 5 kids, you won't give it to me because I make too much. But my point is, you understand what I'm saying? It's like I'm working every day, and it seems like the system is set up that when you work harder, it's a harder struggle because of those same things from the past, which is we started behind. You understand? At some point, our people could not learn how to read. So how would we understand contracts or how to get funding or anything else? So people normally don't see that. They're oblivious to it. I've had these conversations with my Caucasian friends, and they don't understand what our complaints are most time because they don't know. We just started behind. So yeah, the resources are there. I think it's a lot of lazy people who don't want to do the work.
Yeah, but it's also the lack of knowledge about those resources and not getting access. Because like we, in a weird way, like we're minorities, but some people in the minority system are more privileged than others. So like, how can you then speak for those who don't necessarily have that access, right? Like they don't know about it. You can be in a circumstance where you lost your parents and now you're taking care of your siblings. So I think, like, to your point, like, because you're starting at such a deficit that feels like insurmountable, you got to work extra hard to get to a place where someone more privileged was born into. And I think that's a major hurdle to have to overcome.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah. I love what you said, Christian. Yeah, Tosh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I agree. It makes me think of, I worked at Try the United Way, and I did financial stability and financial literacy classes for like Title I schools, and none of the parents would show up. Right. And so what we would have to do is, in order for parents to show up, we kind of had to do like bribes basically. And so it's like, hey, you come to the class, you got a $20 gift card. And the $20 gift card, I mean, that's small, but people started showing up to the classes after that. And so it was one, because people thought it was a waste of time. Like, why do I need to learn about financial literacy? Like you said, I'm on food stamps, I'm on this, I'm on welfare, whatever the case may be. I'm good. I'm in my good spot. I'm being taken care of. And it wasn't until when actually some people started coming to the classes that they started learning like key things to say, wow, if I learn how to do a basic budget, that is helping me change now my mindset, because it's like, I'm thinking that I don't have any money, but I'm spending my money and I'm not even counting what's bringing in. And did everybody get it? No. Did we have people drop out? They just came for the $20 gift card? Yes, because that's what people's mindset is.
And the free food.
And the free food. Yeah, we had Chick-fil-A all the time. That brings everybody in.
Oh, yeah.
But you had a few that mindset was like, okay, well, I don't want this to be like my end. I don't want this to be my end. So it's like, how do we engage with the few that is just like, okay, I want to get out, but I don't know how to get out. So that's why, like Ty was saying, like, people, you still have to help people where they are, because not everybody has that same mindset.
Yeah. And that's something that Ty was saying, just like the psychology of it, like psychological. If that's not addressed, we can have all of the programs offer all of this stuff, but if the mind is not addressed, then as you said, people just won't do, because again, there hasn't been a change in mind. And Butler, let me say this: what you hit it on the head, where it's like people that need it, and because everyone needs access to quality food, everyone needs access to food, right? So I don't want to say people that need it, right? But the middle class people that can say, hey, I got 4 kids, I got 5 kids, but I make X amount of money, I can't get access to this. Right. I remember when our boys went to college, like we was in that predicament where we made too much to get financial aid, but didn't make enough to cover 100% of college. Right. And so it's like, we was in that middle. But all of you mentioned education.
Right. So my question to you is the quality of education determined by the community, or like the community of your origin? Is it determined by that?
Anybody can jump in.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were excited about this. Is the part? Okay, we are in prime education, right, with our kids starting, and it's so sad because our oldest daughter's going to 1st grade, and we live in a good community, right. And the school that she was zoned to, we're like, oh, it's a brand new school, everything is cool, this is good, but they rating their school report card grade actually was a D. That was their targeted goal. And so we were like, stop, right. Pull her out. That's not happening. Prior to them going into school, they was all home. Like our kids, we want them to be challenged in education. But it was because the school was titled as a Title I, of course. And so they did not have the resources available. And majority of the students were considered minority. And so the resources weren't being pooled. And so they were meeting the kids at their level, which was kindergarteners were coming in not even knowing
how to count to
10. And our daughter's coming in, and I'm like, you count to 100. And so she was coming home with coloring pages, and we were both like,
and mind you, these are the same coloring pages that you go to Dollar Tree and you get for your child to just be able to just do a regular coloring activity.
We're like, what's happening?
And also the thing that kind of kills me is maybe not your origin, but it's where you're placed. Right. And so, at least for here, Charlotte, and even when I'm from Charleston, South Carolina originally, like the good schools are in the rich area. So here in Charlotte, Ballantyne is the rich area, or one of the rich areas. And so those are where the good public schools are. Those are the ones that are scoring A's and at least a B-, but everything else is D's and C's and F's, honestly. And in order for you to get your child into at least a public school that's good, you have to move into those areas, which costs more, which everything costs more, but like it's at a different level. Yeah. And then you have to start looking at whether or not you want to send your child to a private school, because you don't want your child to go to a school that's bad. And a lot of these like charter schools are in like the hood of the hood.
Yeah.
So even if it might be a good curriculum and everything, as soon as they walk outside, you try to make sure they get in the car, because it might be a shooting across the street.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. We're right now we've applied to private school, but it's like that's crazy that we have to basically go into a private school and now spend money for education because the zone school is doing the bare minimum, but that's because the kids and the resources that they've gotten, beyond underneath kindergarten, they didn't even set these kids up for success.
I think it's also an issue of and someone can chime in. When we moved, I knew that when we pay property taxes, a portion of my property taxes was going to the school system, right? And so, of course, the bigger property you have, the more taxes you pay, the more percentage that school gets. So is there anyone like particularly like Edward that like went to Atlanta and was in Houston, moved to Atlanta, or like, do you see a difference in
Well,
school system based on where you live?
well, real quick, just for a quick joke, when I moved out here to Atlanta, and I was just going to work day to day, I would be leaving the house at maybe like 9 in the morning and still see kids like waiting outside for the school bus compared to me who was in school by like 7 o'clock. And I was just like, what is the school? What is going on here? But maybe more so specifically to the original question, a quick story. When I was growing up and I was in middle school, we had a real bad hurricane that had came through Houston. And it washed up one of the schools that my neighborhood was zoned in. And the other school was high school my mom and dad went to, something I'm just to, follow in their footsteps and go there. But the other school that got washed up in a hurricane, all those kids were being sent to this one high school. So you got how many ever thousands upon thousands of kids, and I'm like, all my homies from the neighborhood going there. So we hyped up, obviously times 10, all the girls you're going to get to see in high school. So I'm just like geek. And my mom and dad was like, you're not going there. And I'm like, what y'all mean? Like, I got to, like, I'm zoned there. They was like, nah, that ain't happening. And so my mama, being the forward thinker that she was at the time, obviously I'm mad because I can't go to school with my friends, but in the end, it made sense. She ended up getting a job driving school buses in another district that was better to the one that our neighborhood was zoned in, because if you work for the district, then therefore your kids could go to that district, right? And to sum it all up, majority of my friends that I grew up with in that neighborhood ended up going to the high school that our neighborhood was zoned in. I can't say I know many of them by the dozens that ended up going to college, right? But my mama making that conscious effort and decision to be like, nah, I'm gonna find a way to get you over here to this other school. As I, went through high school and I'm starting to be around different people and they talking about college, I'm just like, what's that about, right? And it is of my belief, because my mother made that decision here today, like, had I got to go to the school I thought I wanted to go to, right, I don't think I probably would have went to college.
Wow.
But because I ended up, going, my mama, making the moves that she did and sending me, off to another school, I ended up going to college because of the peers and the people that I was around, that I grew up around from 9th grade to 12th.
Wow.
So, I mean, that I just, gave that story, as a testament to, like, that's what came to mind when I seen that question, just in terms of, like, the community in which you grow up in, having an effect on the type of education you come out with down the road.
It does have it. Yeah, it does.
So I want to hear, like, we'll go from Ty to Alonzo, then Joe, and then Christ. I want to hear, like, what you guys think of this question. Is the quality of education determined by the community of origin?
It just is where your residence is. And I never was in a situation, thankfully, where I had to resort to going to my zone school, especially for like junior high school and high school. And to Edward's point, I think that would have been the path of most resistance, just because when you look at, not just like the people that go there, but just like the type of energy that it gave off just walking by, and you see that it definitely could have changed you. Like, you could have been the most astute learner, you could have been disciplined and come from a house of Christ, but those experiences can definitely deter you en route to where you're trying to go. But yeah, I think that, I mean, it's not like all that dissimilar to restaurants and gyms. Like, the better the neighborhood, the more quality the establishment. And that's the same for schools, right? Like, you go to an affluent neighborhood, they're going to have the better gyms, they're going to have the better restaurants, they're going to have like parks that look, better. So I think that it's the same thing when it comes to the education system.
Yeah.
Is the quality of education determined by the community of your origin? It is. Even like coming from Brooklyn, like, you do have to go you go to your zone school. So it's wherever you live, that's the school that you go to when you get into like junior high school or, high school or whatever. You have more options because you're able to actually apply. So unfortunately it is. And then like, if we go back to the first question, we talk about debt, especially a lot of minorities, they have to work a lot of hours, or they have to work an 8 to 4 or a 9 to 5. So for them to even have the option to say like, you know what, well, my child has to be to school at 7 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning. I could put them in a different zone, but you got to get them to that zone. Then you have to have the finances to be able to either somebody pick them up. You can't afford that, or somebody, to put them in different types of things or whatever. So it's a whole big cycle. You know what I'm trying to say, that it's going to be real hard for minorities to get out this cycle. A lot of it somewhat is laziness amongst us as people, and we have to do better. A lot of it, like you guys were saying, is you just like knowing resources and things like that. You don't know, the resources. They are out there for you to go ahead. Yeah. Something very quick, and I'll move on. It's funny that we're talking about Martin Luther King Jr. My son goes to a school that Martin Luther King Jr. tried to get his kids in, and they were denied because of the color of their skin back in the day. And so the school over the years, they've, I'm trying to say, of course, have been introducing more blacks into the school because that's what they need to do. But it's just like a lot of parents, what they would do is, if you look at like Tasha was saying, private education, some of these schools is like $30,000, $40,000 a year for kindergarten and first grade. You want to put your kids in those things.
You can't afford that.
Like, it's real. It's not affordable for a lot of minorities. Definitely. However, there are resources out there. And then if you just take that extra step, I'm trying to say, to be like, it's about faith. I'm trying to say, and you have to have faith. You have to at least try it, at least take the step to be like, you know what? You can't be lazy about it. Let me just see what opportunities are out there. And these opportunities are for everybody. It doesn't matter if you grew up, I'm trying to say, in the slums, or if you grew up at a certain thing. We all have access to these resources, and you got to take that step and try.
Hey, I just want to ask real quick, if they charging that much for first grade and kindergarten, what kind of coloring books is they using?
It's got to be magical.
Some of these schools, man, these schools, I look at his lunch. They have lunch like he can have risotto on days. You know what I'm trying to say? But
they vested for $30,000.
$30,000. But yeah, about the zone school. Yeah, zone school sometimes. And Ty, I agree with you. The energy is it could be completely off. My zone school was Franklin K. Lane. To those that lived in Brooklyn, and I was scared for my life every day I went to school. Every day I went to school. And I was like, Lord, get me up out of here. And God made a way. Can you put that in the comments? God made a way to get me out of that school. Because Lane was gang infested. I want to keep the convo moving. So I want to get to segment 2. And we talk about it kind of fits perfectly. Talking about the mind and psychologically and wanting to change. Dr. King, if you ever heard his speeches, he often talked about the mindset of a person. And so during his I Have a Dream speech, this is what he said. We're going to come back and talk about it.
There are those who are asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of the unspeakable horrors of police brutality. We can never be satisfied as long as our body is heavy with the fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in the motels of the highways and the hotels of the cities. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one. We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity by signs stating for whites only. We We cannot be satisfied as long as a Negro in Mississippi cannot vote and a Negro in New York believes he has nothing for which to vote. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream.
It's all good.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's get to it.
So certainly America, especially the minority community, has undeniably progressed significantly since 1963. Do you believe that these advancements has led to a diminished sense of urgency for continued progress? Are minorities in the U.S. potentially satisfied with symbolic progress, akin to having an engagement ring rather than achieving the substantive commitment of true equality? We're going to start with Joe, and we're going to go in that order.
Engagement ring instead of true commitment, aka I'm gonna give you a shut up ring,
a promise ring,
right?
And then I may or may not marry you. So yeah, are we satisfied with where we at, and have we become complacent, Joe?
So I do not believe that there is a sense of urgency. I don't believe we will ever be satisfied. There's always going to be, because we never had a fair start from the get. So there's always going to be that that thirst and hunger that we're looking for externally when we actually kind of need to look internally and kind of, it's just like if the world could just stop for a second and we start over, right? And we started over from the beginning and everybody has a fair opportunity. If it's built on no race, I think that was one of the other questions or issues listed before. But there's no external that's going to be achieved as a race, in my opinion. Want some more because we didn't get. It's like me giving Lakeisha giving to Jamel something, and we're like, well, what about me? You know, it's always going to be like a what about me mindset, in my opinion.
Christ.
All right. So I'm gonna answer this, but I guess even in the speech itself, he talks about police brutality. He talks about going from a smaller ghetto to a larger one, and I do believe that unfortunately in our Black community, because we now can wear Gucci and we can wear these name brands, we feel like a lot of people feel like they've made it because now I can spend my money on things, and we don't understand the value of even our dollar. So the sense of urgency to me has went away because we feel like, most people feel like now we have the power because there are more Black millionaires than we've ever had, right? And so a lot of things we look at is like we're making momentum now. We're actually going somewhere, but it's no different than I had a conversation with, again, Caucasians in my job. And I told them, I said, you will never know what it's like to be a Black man in America if you're not a Black man. So you can sense that it's better for Blacks, but it's really not unless you're a Black man, right? And so I think that why the urgency is gone is because our bank accounts are bigger, our cars are better, because some of us feel, like Ty said at one point, there's almost a separation within the Black community. So now I'm a Black person, but I'm a high-end Black person. You know, it's like I lived in South Carolina as well. So if you live in West Ashley, that's different from North Charleston. I understand. You understand what I'm saying? So those are the things where it's like, I understand that we do need a sense of urgency because what we are lacking really is, back to Joe's answer, is internally, we are not satisfied with who we are and understanding it will never be fair. And that's a hard truth to believe, but the truth is it's never going to be fair. Why? Because even in our educational system, the basis of it is, why are the school systems worse in neighborhoods? Because they won't put the funding there. But who's running the funding? When we go to our government officials, it's a system that's been locked for years. The same families, the South Carolina situation, where that family was corrupt with judges and everything else, it's been running for years. We'll never have a fair shot. So let's just do what we can do, be urgent about doing it. But again, police brutality, we still seeing all those things. It's the same.
Jump in, Tom.
So is there still a sense of urgency? I guess I would question whether or not there was ever a sense of urgency. I think that what also we're fighting against is, the people who say, be appreciative, be grateful, because, 40 years ago, you didn't have these rights. Like you weren't able to walk outside, quote unquote, freely and live a normal life. So be appreciative. There are folks who have convinced themselves that, the absence of racial conversations actually brings justice, which makes no sense. Like, stop talking about it, and then people would not have as big of a problem with it. Be colorblind, and that's all silly. But to me, I think there always needs to be a sense of urgency, because you don't even have to go back that far. Tasha earlier brought up the Black Lives Matter movement, and I know that's controversial. Like, people feel differently about what that movement accomplished, but what we did see was some laws were changed during that whole George Floyd protest, like the allocation of police budget resources. We saw a reduction of police presence in schools. We saw some reform to the police academies, especially here in New York City. So I think that as long as you continue to apply that pressure on lawmakers and on, politicians by way of protesting and, voicing your frustration, then that's the way that you're going to be able to see some change. But I agree with Christ that, it sounds, I guess, discouraging, but I don't know how much we're going to be able to accomplish simply because we're outnumbered, right? Like, we only make up 13% of the population. So we're going to need a lot of help from people who, at one point or another didn't consider us to be more than 3/5 of a person to actually come on our side and help take us to that next level. So
that's good.
Wow.
That's good.
Yeah.
I think like the progression where like people talk about was this the sense of urgency diminishing because of the advancements that Martin Luther King, Harriet Tubman, Obama, all of these people. But like, if you look at it, maybe like it's a natural progression, because as each generation we go forward, like, it's not as racism is there, but our mindsets are different. So my mindset is way different than my grandparents' mindset or my mom and their mindset of what they had to deal with. Versus 2024, my son, his mindset is, and his friends' mindsets, they're going to be different too. So imagine like 3-4 generations down the line, because, I would think a lot more people today, blacks, whites, and, different things. Yes, it's racism is here, it's here, but it's getting a little bit where, people they're addressing it. It's more like us. We're not, I mean, some people may be racist, but we're not teaching our children racism. There are households that are still teaching them, but I think the majority of households today in this world are steering their kids away from racism. So, in a way, is the urgency being diminished? It's bad, but then it's also good too, because it's like, hey, and it's hard to change somebody's mindset. We talked all today about like, people mindsets, and that's going to take a long time. So, it's advancements have diminished it, but maybe in a good way.
You are treading. I see. I see Tosh and then Edward.
I'm like,
You treaded.
Well, I mean, advancements. I do agree. I mean, one, with the racism thing, it still exists, and I think that it still exists in a lot of different forms. You see it on an everyday basis, to small forms, and you might not even realize that, oh wow, that was racism, because it's like sneaky now.
But some people don't.
That's the thing about it.
Some people, it might not even be to them racism.
Yeah.
It might just be a bias.
Yeah.
Like, when we talk about my background in law enforcement, a lot of the stuff that was going on, You're not trained to do that. Like, that ain't not one part of our training to choke somebody out. It's just not. It's not part of your training. And to see it, it's just like that. You already know that that's wrong. But a lot of people, like, they just have a bias in their brain. You know, like for me, if I go in the elevator, there's a white lady in there, and she starts clutching her purse. I don't even want your purse. I don't even know who you are. But
It's
somehow,
ingrained
some way,
in
you're
them,
scared
yeah.
of me, like I'm about to rob you or something.
Yeah.
But where does that come from? You know, and like you said, mindset. You know, the thing about it is that it's not just, it's the same thing in the whites or the non-minority, the majority groups, right? Is that they were taught things as younger kids. And so their mindset, just like how it's hard for us to change our mindset in the minority groups, it's hard for them to change their mindsets because in the back of their mind, they still have this majority rules for them to say like, well, you were taking care of me, you know, like you were out there in the fields and stuff. Like you were my nanny. Even nannies, like you look at it now, it is insane. You think about how many nannies out there. You don't see whites taking care of black kids and stuff. You see minorities, you see the blacks, you see Hispanics, you see all these other minority groups taking care of this because that mindset. And I mean, that family could be really cool. The white family could be really, I mean, the coolest people. Y'all can get along, y'all can go to dinners, but you still have a black nanny, or you're adopting. Like it's that mindset is still there, and so that's the thing that is going to be hard to change. And then for our just black community, the sense of urgency has just like left. Christ, I like walked back in, and you were talking about, like you said, now that I can afford the Gucci's and all of these things like this, it's like we're in a good place. So why do I have to move forward? When on the other side, you look at the financial world, somebody mentioned it earlier, but you have people starting salaries at $200,000, $300,000. And our minority groups, we are okay with $50,000, $60,000, right. 70, 80. It's not okay. Like the way how life and the inflation rates and all these things are going, you cannot afford to live on an $80,000 salary. Like, why is it that we're coming in at 80 and the same person is coming in at $300,000? It's a mindset. It's a mind shift that has to happen. And that's because our urgency has just like, it stopped because our kids are okay. Our kids we could go, we can go
shopping to get all this stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Someone we know, like, we go to Red Lobster. It's like, you know, it's like, no.
Don't take me to Red Lobster, okay?
It's not okay.
Don't take me to Red Lobster. Don't take me there.
Don't take me there either. Some people might call, but like you said, then it's a difference between our like in the African American community, because we could be like, oh, we want to go to this restaurant, and people look at us like, oh, well, they must be bougie because you're going to. It's a restaurant here called 131 Main. Excellent if you ever come to Charlotte, eat amazing. But they're like 131 Main, like, excuse me. I'm like, no, the food is good. Right. Like, I mean, you know, change your palate a little bit.
Right.
But
ooh, like, you got money.
Yes. But that's the mindset. That's the mindset. It's like, oh, y'all think y'all changed over, and now you going to these restaurants, and so it's. I mean, urgency has diminished.
The urgency, Edward, jump in.
I would say I believe the urgency has diminished. I think back when I was in college sometime, you could pick a lot of different spots on like where you feel like the drop off happened. I think for me, in my experience, I would say I think when I guess like the jolt of energy was like taken out of us, or it caused us to like stop applying pressure, so to speak, is when Obama got in office, right? Because very informed of like, you know, the president can only like do so much, you know. They're just like the mascot, the face of the country. So that doesn't necessarily mean they have all same power to do X, Y, Z, A, B, C, 1, 2, and 3 for everybody, right? And so when you look at that, and you think you're thinking about the majority of us Black people and all that we've been through, and you know how far we've come. You know, 400 years now, we the president. We good now. It's just like, unfortunately, we have so far to go. Right. And when that happened, right, if you're not fully aware and, you know, just on the optics of America, you would think that we as a people have won and we have something to like hip hip hooray about. And you could argue that like that's just like really just like pulling the wool over our eyes, you know, kind of like psych us out to a degree. So I think because of that, that's when it, for me, I feel like I seen it to kind of start. And then when you add on, you know, we could be entrepreneurs and we can get money in so many different facets. There's going to be the argument like, well, you got all these opportunities out here. But the way I look at it is, even if you are like a first generational millionaire in your family, you could fool yourself into thinking that like, you know, like you've made it, or, you know, you didn't stop your hunger from trying to push forward. But it's just like, if you're the first generation of millionaire in your family and you're not putting things in place, or you're not trying to pass nothing down to your kids, when you know, get called home to glory and your kids or your grandchildren got to start all over, like, what did you really accomplish while you were here?
Nothing at all. And that's something that we often don't think about.
Right.
You know, generational wealth and legacy. You know, like legacy. That's something that we do not think about. I would say this: when Obama became president, everyone I talked to had this mindset, as Edward said, that we've made it.
My president is black. My Lambo is blue. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was that we made strides, right, because it's something that we've never seen before. Mm-hmm. But to whom much is given, much is required. Right? And so there was people don't realize there was a greater level of accountability and responsibility put on us to say, hey, wait a minute, we just gave y'all a black president. You know, and you know, we'll talk about that in our next segment. We're going to get on politics. Listen, fam, I need you to do us a favor: like, comment, share, tag a friend, tag a family member. We're going to make a transition here about politics. Dr. King, those of you that listen to his speeches, I'm a huge fan of Dr. King. He was very critical on politics. He was critical on the Vietnam War. It was something that he did not shy away from talking about. Mm-hmm. And so during this speech, the I Have a Dream speech, he discusses the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence.
In a sense, we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds.
America has given the Negro a bad check. A check which has come back marked insufficient funds. Do Dr. King's reflections on the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, as ensured by the Declaration of Independence, remain applicable in the present day? And we're going to start with Ty.
Do they remain applicable in the present day? Well, I'll answer it by saying, like, a part of you guys feel uncomfortable whenever you're like filling out a job application. They ask you for your race and ethnicity, right? And you check the box. you start to think like, man, did I already like fail that interview just because I'm black? So the reason why I bring that stuff up is because in theory it should be set up so that we all have this equal shot at, attaining success and prosperity. But we understand that that's not the case because, you always feel like you got to work twice as hard as your white contemporaries to get the same job or the same position. You always feel like you got to, do twice as hard to achieve like degrees in school, and then all of a sudden you come out and your salary is not matching someone who got the same grades as yours. So I think that there's a difference in not just mentality, but what you are given access to, which speaks to what Dr. King was talking about. Like we're given checks of insufficient funds, and it goes back to the original conversation about us starting off with such a deficit. So I think that the way that you fix it again is to acknowledge what the issue is, because the prerequisite for action is to talk about it, and then you put pressure on people who are in position to make things happen, and hope that there is some type of adjustment made.
I'm gonna say this, and then Lamar, I want you to talk about it. Here's my issue with this, is that when this was written, we did not exist or was not recognized as humans, right? And so when they wrote this and when Dr. King makes his speech, are we somewhat being adopted into this, or, because now we are recognized as human beings, or, was it for us in the first place? Lamar, you can go ahead.
Oh, well, I think like in anything you do, you have to have a preface. So you got to see when he talks about, or like the Declaration of Independence, when they talk about the pursuit of life, liberty, whatever, all that stuff, like what's the beginning? So the beginning of that is we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. So when I took all three of those words, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, what do I think of life? And like, are we being cashed a bad check? In the church, whatever, life, I look at abortions, you know what I'm trying to say? And so like, that's one thing that the federal government, that especially if you look at the thing, they said you're a creator. So God is the creator. He gave us free will. You can do whatever you want to do. It's consequences to what you're going to do, but you have free will. So for life, when it comes to the federal government, with like the Hyde Amendment and the federal abortion ban, they're banning someone's free will to do certain things. So you don't knock this out. When you talk about, Thomas Jefferson described the term liberty in the Declaration of Independence as unobstructed action according to all our will within limits drawn around us by the equal rights of others, technically just meaning that you have the ability to choose your own way without interference. So we could talk about LGBTQIA, B, C, D through Z rights, right? The government, they ban abortions, but then they gave people the right to have same-sex marriages. Then you want to go down to the next one, by the pursuit of happiness. What did Thomas Jefferson mean by the pursuit of happiness? The pursuit of happiness is a euphemism for the pursuit of wealth. From his perspective, Jefferson's vision of happiness was from rags to riches. We spoke earlier today about debt, education systems, and how it's a whole big cycle. So it's just like, all right, Biden or the federal government, you gave us $20,000 and then you took it away from us. That is a whole situation that we in, and it's a whole big cycle. And so like, to me, it's if the government, if you're going to one way, I guess, to kind of, get this thing on right for the government, you can't be wishy-washy. It's either you're going to give people their free will according to the creator, or you're not. And so, you know, once we kind of like say, you got to say yes to everything, or you got to say no to everything. You got to be hot or cold. You can't be lukewarm. And I mean, it really don't, I mean, that's that's the whole big thing on this whole thing. So, you know, once you look at it and stuff like that, it's, we don't have our unalienable rights. We do, and then we don't. The government got to figure out what they want to do.
Joe?
Why you made me come after him?
Listen, he took us to school just now, okay? Check that off. That ain't right. Check that off. We ain't doing that. Yeah. So
is there a pass option?
So based on what
Game set match,
are we fighting a losing battle? If this is our pursuit, are we fighting a losing battle? How should we address this apparent bad check written, this bad check? How should we address it? Joe?
I got one word. I said pray. Prayer. That's all you got. That's really all you're gonna do. Even with the government, or who's gonna be our next president, who you gonna vote for, whether you're Republican or Democrat, whether you whatever, you just gotta pray. Because I mean, that's all you can do.
I was gonna add to that. Like, I think being in this world, right? Sometimes we can just get so caught up in, you know, being here on this earthly realm. But I think, you know, to your question, you know, how do we attack this fight? And David Jesus Christ, I think you just sometimes have to understand that, right now we here on this earthly realm, but, you know, as he said, with prayer, tap into that spiritual realm. You know, it's like, if you know who you are and who you are, you know, and who you come from, like, if you operate in that space, and then we talk about trying to form and develop that generational wealth, you know, once you're blessed enough to obtain it and pass it along to others, I think that's, at least for me, that's how I process it, in terms of like I don't personally get up and get lost in like, oh, they took it away, they gave it back, I'm not really sure what they was. You know, I don't really get too caught up in that. I think at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying, like I say, if you believe in the Most High, and you walk by faith, you know you got plans to, you know no weapon formed against you shall prosper, you know, plans to, you know, plans for you to prosper. Operate in that space, and I like to believe that, you know, everything will fall in place and you have everything that you need.
Yeah, jump in.
I just speaking to all that too. Like, I think the main thing is too, like Lamar was saying, that's about that I was going with the question, was breaking it down, because I'm like, what does unalienable mean? Like, and then you have man that wrote this. And so when you talk about anybody writing something, it's based on what you feel, what you think. So anybody could have a definition of life. Anybody could have a definition of pursuit of happiness. Anybody could have a definition of liberty. If we ask anybody on this call, I mean, it will be the same. We might give all different answers about what it means. And so it's like, how is it fair to say that this is going to be for all men? So we have to go back to what was written, like Lamar said, was like the creator. So like, who is your creator? Like that's what you're going based on. It's like, what did God intend for us? What does that mean? What does the pursuit of happiness in God mean? What does life in God mean? What does liberty in God mean? Because that's your creator. And I think that if people start to look at that and not really start to focus on like man, because like I said, man is going to fail you every time, because we're just straight up flesh.
So I love Jesus. He is the head of my life.
He's the head.
And I'm running for my life. right?
Run on.
I've been baptized in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
When we say just pray, are we leaning towards we just don't have an answer? Or are we saying we'll pray and do, or are we just saying, hey, just pray about it, Jesus will work it out for us?
Faith without works is dead. So you got
Church.
to put something in.
I mean,
Tabernacle.
You can't just say just pray.
but I mean, this is why it falls. This is
No,
why it
you
falls
have to pray.
on Christian people as well, because we were talking about this morning. Like, as much as we want to talk about these politicians and everything, it's like, what are we doing? Like, are we the ones running for office to uphold the Christian standard in the government? Like, we're acting like this is Rome. We're just going to be as Romans do, right? Somebody has to stand up. Somebody has to start taking office. Somebody has to start holding what true Christian values. And I know it is crazy as I don't know what to try to go into politics and to be a Christian, because most people think that if you try to go in there with real Christian values, they're just going to shun you out.
I mean, look at Obama, right?
Mhm.
Don't attack that. I talk about the first black president, but he was attacked when and on the top of the morning he was singing Amazing Grace, and then a few hours after that he was signing legislation that goes against Christian values.
Right? I mean, that was his personal choice. I mean, you can't try to make everybody happy, but if you're trying to really and truly uphold Christian standards, then you got to follow by the book.
Yeah.
And me personally, that was a mistake. But at the end of the day, you got to have real people that are not worried about being PC. You just got to do what the Lord tells you to do, and to uphold the Bible. That's it. Like there, like he said, like Lamont was saying, there is no hot and cold. Either you with Jesus or you not. That's it.
Gotcha. Christ Adenta.
Yes.
No.
Okay, I thought it looked like Ty had something he wanted to say on that part, so I was on. Yeah.
You're on mute, Ty.
You on mute, Ty.
Oh, that's is he not coming in?
We can't hear you.
I don't know what happened.
Can't hear you.
Okay, anyway.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah, so again, I agree with everybody's saying. I think, you know, with defining life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, I still think it boils down to what he said, which is a bad check. Ultimately, I think what has happened is that we have become okay with receiving a check without verifying the funds, period. And ultimately, that is what Gucci looks like. That is what all these things we do. It's just what it is. The power of the black dollar, we could run our own community. Only in the black community do we not spend our money amongst each other. The Chinese keep their money with themselves. Every other race does it. We go spend our money. So it can be a quality black school, like for instance, HB, you know, they are not getting the funds that other people get because our rappers won't give money to them, but they'll give it to the other colleges. You kind of understand? So amongst ourselves, the check is bad because of our own ignorance has really made it what it is. And again, this is a speech about a dream. Ultimately, my dream is that this will be, and we're not gonna get into that because that's the last question. But there are things and steps to a dream coming to pass, and I think we are lacking those things, and that's why we are receiving bad checks every day, and most of us are writing them as well. We're writing them.
Todd, Joe, top it.
I just had a question. I'm curious as to why Obama was vilified for that, for being someone who sang Amazing Grace, but then signed the documents that, you know, legislated that you could operate in a same-sex marriage. I'm curious as to why that was the case.
That's for
Christian.
I mean, clearly, God destroyed the town of just people not doing what they were supposed to be doing, and it showed. I mean, God created. I ain't trying to go that way, but like at the end of the day, God created Adam and Eve to be together, for man and woman to be able to create and multiply on the earth. He didn't create anything else besides that marriage.
Yeah, but did he create white supremacy?
No.
So then shouldn't we also have that same energy for Republicans?
I mean, but not all Republicans are white supremacists.
I mean, the guy who was in office last was a white supremacist. There's a woman running for office right now who's trying to say America was never racist. The point of this exercise is to just point out, I think it does get silly when we try to use politics and view it through the lens of the church. Because what you're going to have happen as the world continues to evolve is that the conversations become more nuanced. So if you're simply trying to align with a candidate who values, the church and who is in sync with you spiritually, it's never going to happen because everyone's ideas are differently and they're continuing to evolve. We saw it with Obama. We saw it, and we're now seeing it on the Republican side too. So I think we're going to keep running into that hypocrisy of, ignoring or turning a blind eye to one person's introduction of sin, if you will, whereas the other person's getting away with it just because we felt like that was the candidate that we chose.
Well, who's the majority in this country? Like you said, it's back to the 13% that we are. Whites are the majority in this country, so therefore,
not for long.
They chose. I mean, what I do? I think over
not
here.
For long.
It all boils down to we are human. So whether or not, I mean, if you think about the human mind, like I said, God gave us free will, but we're human. So people, if you try to say, oh, this person is Christian, I mean, that's like you could look at pastors, right? People put pastors up on a pedestal. And something happens just literally the other day. They was talking about Bishop T.D. Jakes, right? Oh my gosh, what happened to him back in the day? I'm like, you have to. These are humans. These are not like God did not come down and just say, okay, I'm going to name you God. I'm going to name you God. Like everybody is human, and it's just that we are humans on different levels. And so whether it be politics or whether it be the pulpit or whether it be in the schools or the things. Everybody is human, and so it's just like people forget that aspect. Like, and you got to remember that humans make mistakes. We have flaws with flesh. That is what that's what the flesh is. You're gonna make mistakes, and people take that. People literally just think that, I don't know, just because of your role, then you're supposed to be, oh, you're protected, and you just gonna go that route, and you can do no harm and do no wrong. And it's just like, no, they're humans. So we expect wrong to be done because that's just what a human does.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, and Christ, I know you want to say so. I was just saying that simply like gearing who you vote for and an allegiance to a party like through the lens of the church, I think is silly.
No, that's true. Yeah.
Copy that.
Yeah. And I think I agree with what Ty's trying to say. I believe is that it's no different from I had this conversation before. If I open up a restaurant and I'm Christian, I say, well, we're not going to serve alcohol. I'm going to lose money because we don't serve alcohol, even though my beliefs may not be to drink. So I think when you're certain things can be separated, but I think what they were trying to make the point of is if I'm going to be a candidate, say I'm going to run for office, I cannot compromise on my values, right? And if I'm a Christian, I have to go based off what it means to be a Christian. Right. And if Christian follows the Bible as our guide, it means no different from homosexuality being wrong. Then fornication is wrong. It means adultery is wrong. I have to stick to those rules and live by that through my political views or anything else if I'm going to run. So when they come and ask me a political question, what do you feel about homosexuality? It's wrong because I believe in the Bible. I can't change it now that I'm running for politics, or I need to stay out of it. You're right, because then it separates. But I think personal values get involved in politics because everybody puts them in there. You're going to put that in there. If a person was to run for politics and said they believe it's okay to molest children, nobody's going to vote for them because it's crazy. So you're going to put some personal opinion in those things. But I do agree. I think to hinge a lot of things just on Christianity and that be the only lens you look through can get you in trouble because the world is evil, right? And so I think your personal values of Christianity have to be able to be, you have to put those out when they're needed. I don't think it's always needed. You know what I'm saying? Some people want to be super deep. And so everything I do, got to speak in tongues and God got to tell me what shirt to put on. Is not that serious. I think some things it is to be led by God, but some stuff you just have to stick to what it is and let it be what it is. Politics and religion to me should not really mix, because we really go more toward the Republican Party as a basis of what they believe. But most of us vote Democratic because, again, it goes into that white supremacy. A lot of them Republicans, you have to question, do they even like black people? It's almost
Right.
Well,
Right.
yeah. But it's a lot of us vote Democratic because our mothers voted Democratic, and our fathers voted Democratic, and our
generational,
parents
correct.
voted like generationally. And when it was the Republican Party, not this Republican Party, but it was the Republican Party that actually passed the 14th Amendment and abolished slavery and helped pass the voting rights, right? And so we don't look at that, right? But again, it was the Republican Party, not this Republican Party. Joe, I want you to hop in.
So I was just gonna add, it's interesting how we look at candidates for personal views, base it on their personal views. Everyone has an opportunity. Everyone has an opportunity to go online and look at to determine, is this the correct person? But historically, people are, I'll say primarily African Americans, are stuck on the Democratic Party as opposed to choosing an independent party because they know that they're not going to win, but we never know unless we actually try. But the other position that I was going to say is that, like whoever's views it is, we want them to tell us what their view necessarily hold them account for what their true thoughts are. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, what I can't remember the point was what President Obama did. What did you say?
Oh, well, it was obviously controversial when, you guys hear me? Yeah, when he allowed, I don't want to say allowed, but he put in motion that, the allowance of same-sex marriage, and he got crushed for it, obviously. So that's what I was talking about.
Right. So just imagine hypothetically situation in there. I like, not just because he's from Chicago, but he had to do what he had to do to get the rest of the parties to align in what's to happen in the future. So it's not, I don't agree, believes that. Now, I feel like he had to do what he had to do. Does that make sense?
That's what happened.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I agree with
Yeah,
that.
I wanna make a switch since we're on politics. Nikki Haley, a Republican candidate running for president, she recently made some really, I don't even want to say controversial statements, because to be controversial suggests that there's an element of truth and false. She made some false statements that got a lot of attention. I want to play what she said. It's a 2.5-minute video. Again, fam, if you haven't commented, like, comment, share. We're almost done here. But as we near the point of electing a new president, I want us to listen to what this Republican candidate said. Bless her heart, Jesus.
Bless her heart.
I want to ask you about a comment you made earlier this week. You said that America has, quote, never been a racist country, unquote. Protections for the institution of slavery were written into the U.S. Constitution. The White House was built with slave labor. Your home state of South Carolina seceded from the Union, fought a war to defend the enslavement of black people. I understand you don't think America is a racist country now, but we're here at a college. Do you really think, as a historical matter, America has never been a racist country?
I mean, think about what you're saying. First of all, I will tell you, when you look at, the Declaration of Independence, it was that, men are created equal with unalienable rights, right? That was what we all knew. But what I look at it as is I was a brown girl that grew up in a small rural town. We had plenty of racism that we had to deal with. But my parents never said we lived in a racist country. And I'm so thankful they didn't. Because for every brown and black child out there, if you tell them they live or were born in a racist country, you're immediately telling them they don't have a chance. And my parents would always say, you may have challenges. And yes, there will be people who are racist, but that doesn't define what you can do in this country. And so I think it's important that we tell all kids that, look, America is not perfect. We have our stains. We know that. But our goal should always be to make today better than yesterday. It's hugely important. And that's the problem I have is we have too many people with this national self-loathing. It is killing our country. We have got to go back to loving America. We are blessed because that little brown girl in that small rural town in South Carolina, she grew up to become the first female minority governor in history. She then went on to be UN ambassador, and now she's running for president of the United States. I want every brown and black child to see that and say, no, I don't live in a country that was formed on racism. I live in a country where they wanted all people to be equal and to make sure that they had life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Okay, but just to push back a bit, because I was a history major in New Hampshire, you're talking about the ideals of America. But America was founded institutionally on many racist precepts, including slavery.
But when you look, it said all men are created equal. I think the intent was to do the right thing. Now, did they have to go fix it along the way? Yes, but I don't think the intent was ever that we were going to be a racist country. The intent was everybody was going to be created equally. And as we went through time, they fixed the things that were not all men are created equal. They made sure women became equal too. All of these things happened over time. But I refuse to believe that the premise of when they formed our country was based on the fact that it was a racist country to start with. I refuse to believe that. I have to know in my heart and in everybody's heart that we live in the best country in the world, and we are a work in progress, and we've got a long way to go to fix all of our little kinks. But I truly believe our founding fathers had the best of intentions when they started, and we...
I truly believe our founding fathers had the best intentions, and we did not intend to be a racist nation when we signed the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. Ty, what say ye?
I would, you know what the best part of that is? I would love to ask her, America's not a racist country. Why did she feel the need to change her name once she started running for president to make her name appear to be more white? Because that's not even her actual name. Her actual name is Nimrata Nikki Randhawa Haley. And maybe it's coincidence, but she changed her name to Nikki Haley to appease a certain crowd because she felt in her heart of hearts there was no way she was going, because our country is racist, she was never gonna, see a sense of prominence with that name. But obviously it's ridiculous. It's also dangerous that you could have someone who right now is second in the polls for that party uttering this rhetoric. Like it's hateful, it's embarrassing. And like if you're someone who, like many of us, has been subjected to like harsh racism in this country, you've been brutalized by police, you've had kids who you had to bury as a result of what's transpired in this country, you listen to that and you have to be disgusted that someone with that amount of power, who could literally be months away from becoming the president of this United States country, could say something so ridiculous like that.
Anybody hop in? Edward, anyone?
You know what? I'm gonna be, I guess, devil's advocate on that. Maybe she was going with the spiritual route of what's in the power of your tongue.
No.
You know what I'm trying to say? And no. And I remember this past Monday, we had did like the service project for MLK Day, and then we went to this place in Sandy Springs, and they showed some nationally acclaimed Martin Luther King thing. and it was all these little kids in there, and I felt so bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, you want your child to see racism and you want them to see what happened, but do you really want that image in their head? Because some kids, it could make them feel like, oh wow, well look what the white people did to us. You know what I'm trying to say? And make them feel somewhat inferior. And so I'm not trying to say what she was saying was 100% truth, but I see you, Sarah, now, Lamont. But what I'm saying is, honestly, you don't want your kids to, like, you want them to understand that it was a struggle, but you don't want them to look at things and feel inferior, because child's mind, you don't know how they're going to think about it. And so, like, you know, it could be like, she's like, listen, it's within the power of your tongue. You speak racism, but that's what it's going to be. You wake up in the morning talking about, oh, if you wake up in the morning and tell your kids this is a racist thing, guess what? That's what's going to play back in their mind all the time. Do you want them hearing that, or do you want to speak other positive stuff?
Edward, jump in.
I think speaking more so to like the parental side of it, obviously tell me I don't know what the hell I'm talking about because I don't have kids. But no, like, and I would think, I'm just speaking in general. Like, if you got first and foremost, if you got a black son, I personally think it's vital that he knows about racism. That don't necessarily mean you have to tell him develop this woe me mentality or this woe me attitude, or like America's out to get me, or you know what I'm saying? Like, when I grew up, my daddy told me, he was like, yo, son, like, you already got one strike against you because you black, right? But in no way, shape, or form did he tell me walk around being inferior. He told me to be confident. You know, he told me, you know, don't follow the crowd, so on and so forth. And like, I feel like another point why I feel like it's vital that, you know, you introduce racism. It does sound crazy, but it's real. You know what I'm saying? It's like you better off preparing them early as opposed to it being too late. I think about the episode on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air when Carlton and Will, they got pulled over driving in a BMW out in Palm Springs, and a police officer pulled them over like, y'all had to have stolen this car. There's absolutely, positively no way this is legitimately y'all cars or y'all parents' cars, being two young black men driving in a BMW. Will, being from West Philly, out of the hood, he already knew what time it was. But Carlton, you know what I'm saying, growing up, and, you know, flowers, ice cream, and sunshine, and my dad is a lawyer, hadn't been told that, hadn't been given that conversation yet. Carlton is in America as a black man, oblivious to the fact, thinking the police officer was really just doing his job. Yeah. And then it took for him to be behind bars to be like, wait a minute, so America not really fair like that? You know what I mean? So when you you know, that being just one example, obviously there's many, but I don't personally think there's nothing wrong with introducing and talking to your kids about racism, i.e. the person who don't got kids yet. But I just think it's about how you present it to them, and, you know, and saying, and like how you continue to have those conversations to make sure it doesn't turn into an Achilles heel for them to, you know, lean on.
Yeah. Christ.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. I'm going to stick on one word she kept using, which was the intention. I've gotten in trouble with my wife a lot because of my intention, but I did wrong. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you can have all the intention you want to say. My intentions was good, but
God forbid I shoot somebody, but I didn't have the intent to kill them, but they died.
So she wanted to hinge her whole point on, I don't think the intention was to, and we know America to be a place that is PC. It just is what it is. They're going to say things that you have to really have the understanding to know it's not what you see on paper. It's deeper than that. Hence, all of the things Dr. King said in his speech, we can tell you all day long, this is a fair country. And I think Nikki Haley, she just, instead of admitting I did something wrong, you know how some people just won't come out and say, I said the wrong thing. She's trying to save face instead of just saying, no, what I mean is, because you can't out the same mouth say we don't live in a racist place, but then say you dealt with racism. It makes no sense. You're contradicting yourself to even say that. So I don't know. I just think that intention word to me is that's irritating to me. for her to try to put the intentions, or as if she knows the intentions of America or the founding fathers. How do you know that intention?
As my parents, as my adopted parents, we can't curse on here, right? Okay. All right. I'm gonna mute myself.
Yeah. Tosh and Christian.
I don't even know what to say about Nikki. Ty, when you said her name, I'm like, okay, girl, okay, come on now.
I never know that.
I never knew that either.
I never knew that. Okay,
Never
and
knew
like you said, I mean, you are conforming one to basically to win this, and so that's the issue right there, is that you have to conform from the beginning. You know, but I think that's the issue with everything, is that even introducing racism and teaching our kids, that's the issue, is that we don't do it. You know, it's like we try to shield and protect them, but it's like if you teach somebody where you come from, then you know, like, hey, listen, you know, like we were talking about it, how much, like, for women to vote, it took to just get voting rights, and then you don't even vote right now. It's like, how dare you just step on just what people have fought for, you know? And it's just like, if we don't introduce this from the beginning to say, this is what we did not have, and this is why you need to continue to grow, then we will never grow, because of the fact that we're just being oblivious to, like you said, Christ, you're like, yeah, I dealt with racism, but this is not a racist country. It's like, we can't be oblivious to say, this is a racist country. This is what it was founded on. This is what was from the beginning. But if you don't do it from as kids, then as adults, that's what's happening. That's why adults still walk around to this day and they doing sneaky racist thing, but it's like, that's not racism. It's like, actually that is. Because you don't even know what racism means, because in your household, you were taught that racism just doesn't exist. You were taught it was something else.
So 10 seconds from each of you. What is racism?
I was gonna say that, yeah, right. It's
because I think I think its definition will influence a person's response and then how they think about it. So what is, because y'all got on Alonzo, but I hear what he was saying.
Mm-mm. No, you don't.
No.
Here's why.
I know that you told Alonzo about racism.
So
why you can't. Hold on, real quick. Here's how you can't possibly hear that, and this is with all due respect to Lamont. What we can't do is start the panel by talking about how the Black community needs to be more educated, and then 90 minutes later say, well, actually, when it comes to our kids, they need to be less educated about the things that are holding us back in our education. So that's why that
No. I never said that you shouldn't educate your child on racism. I said going over and over and over and showing them all the negatives. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell Bryson, I'm not going to sit here. We could, like, after that movie, I asked him, what did you feel about that, Bryson? How did you feel when you seen those people, the dogs being let on those people? How did you feel about people being like, just this whole thing where they was talking about blacks and whites? No, definitely educate them. We are Black men. You need to know what's going on. However, I'm going to take more positive from the past so that so that he is not just looking at all the negatives. I'd rather pump you up with, like, you know what I'm trying to say?
Tell them both sides.
This is who your grandfather was. This is what your aunts and your uncles are doing. These are the things that we've accomplished thus far. This is what, like, we talk about racism so much and the whole Black thing, but who's really talking about, like, Black kings and Black queens and everybody who built all this stuff up? So everybody's so basing so much stuff on racism. No, I'm not. I am going to educate my child on racism because that's what the world is about. But I'm not going to harp so much on that one thing that I forget all of the positive that the Blacks is going. Because if you keep on showing, if, like, for instance, you keep on the media, all this stuff, all those things go into kids' minds. You don't want to keep showing your kid, like, all the time, this Black person getting shot down, this Black person getting shot down. They're going to go outside with a fear of even going outside because, like, Dad, that could be me. Yes, you have to be careful and you have to be watchful, but I don't want that to be in your mindset all the time.
But that's not what she said, bro. That's not what she said.
That's what I said. I said
that's not what she said.
If you're not going to show,
that's not what
I'm
she
not going to
said.
ram that down to him all the time. Racism.
So
I took him to that movie so that he could see it. And not take it because
that's different. That's different from what she actually said. This is my point. She didn't say anything.
So what thing was saying about racism is just like, no, she's saying that
what is racism?
What she said about talking about racism. No, speak. It's power of your tongue.
So hold on. So Christ, what is racism?
Okay, 10 seconds. Racism is assuming all the things and facts that you put in your mental about a person just by the color of their skin. That's the fastest way I can say it. So again, the media portrays us as monsters. If you have dreads, you're gonna kill people. And when they see black people, that's automatically what they see. Ignorant, they'll steal from me, they'll kill me, they'll rob me. But you can only have racism against, I don't think we can be racist against Caucasians. I'm sorry.
What?
I know that's wild, but
yeah. But we racist about ourselves because somebody just said in this thing that like if you have a white person on the elevator and a black person get on the elevator with them, they holding their purse. What about black women on here that get in elevators and black guys get on and they be doing the same thing? So it's just like it's not just necessarily a whole color thing between black and white. You have to look at what the world is going on. Like I have people that's in the judicial system. The amount of black young men that go through the system every single day is ridiculous. Like it doesn't make any sense. And so like everybody want to talk about like all this whole black and white thing or whatever. As black people, stop doing so much, all that stuff. You would not have the rep that a lot of black people have. But the media shows a lot of black people in negative ways. And guess what? Look at the jails. Yeah, is it a systematic thing? So it's a whole big circle, but you still put yourself in that predicament sometimes. All these things about these guys, a lot of times you be hearing about black guys getting shot. You get stopped by the police. Why are you running? You running because of what you saw on TV and you scared because you have all these things in your mindset versus other people. If you don't have those things in your mindset that's so set in stone, you know what? Be respectful to the police. Put your hand up on the wheel. Comply with what the guy's saying. Keep your mouth shut. You want to get home. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
It's like,
except when the white guy is allowed to shoot up a church and then make it out unscathed. So I mean,
it is so. One of the reasons why I wanted to ask that question about racism, because racism, it's not just a black and white thing, right? And I know racist Christians against other Christians, right? I know we all can agree that as Edward said, we have to teach our children both sides. Is we have to show them this is the reality that we live in on both ends. This is the racist side. I was telling our son Tyler, it's not one day that I don't pass a police car and I don't look in I don't look in my back view mirror. Right? I told our son Tyler, if you get pulled over by the police, throw the keys out the window. Put your hands out the window, right? But again, will that stop someone from being killed? We all have seen the evidence that it does not, right? So I think we have to have a balance, a balanced life in teaching our children. What Nikki Haley said when she said, again, it's intention, as Christian said, you know, what she didn't know what they intended to do. Christ, you know, but does anyone have anything else you want to say on that?
You can't be racist.
One of the things that Dr. King mentioned was he mentioned about voting, where the coloreds, as he said, in New York, don't know who to vote for, don't know why they should vote, whereas the Southerners are not voting. All right. And so based on what Nikki Haley said, based on everything we see Trump doing, how do we move forward and how do we protect our right to vote? How do we ensure that our vote has an influence in this country?
A lot of people don't vote. I know people that when you ask them, did they vote? No, I ain't voting what I'm voting for. My vote don't matter, or I don't know who these people is. So it's a lot of accountability for us as well, that we have to vote, but then a lot of times people don't vote for whatever their reasons are. Oh, I'm not voting because I don't agree with anybody. I don't want anybody.
Sure.
So if I don't want the Democrat, I don't want the Republican, I don't want the independent, then why I'm not voting I'm not voting, period.
Because when we hit the end of this year, if it's between Biden and Trump, I don't know who to vote for. I don't want Trump, don't want Biden. So you have those people just like, hey, you know something, I'm not just going to vote at all, right? And so how do we?
And that actually benefits one of the parties.
Absolutely.
And I think people don't realize that when you don't vote, it's like you're voting anyway.
You're voting
anyway. So, just make your vote count. A lot of times, things that's happening in our communities. Like, you don't go to the community board meetings. You don't know who your community officials are. You don't go to those smaller elections. Oh, this election don't matter to me. It's not the big one. I'm not voting. But it does, and it will help in getting resources to your community, or you can find out what's going on in your community so that maybe you can help to obtain resources. But it's like we don't make that as a priority. So how can we
get rid of the electoral college?
So we don't
gotta get rid of the electoral college, because to me, if you vote, some people, you can live in rural Georgia, you know what I'm trying to say, and then honestly, if you vote in Democrat or you vote in whatever, it's not gonna matter, because that vote, that electoral college part, it's going to go by like the majority. So, I mean, and if the whole community is not what you about, then your vote probably really don't matter. So I think if you get rid of the electoral college and let every vote count, that's a better representation of how people feel.
So y'all can go ahead. 20 seconds. All right.
I just say this. For me, my grandmother took part in the first sit-ins in Charleston, South Carolina. So for me, it's a slap on her face. She was arrested for those sit-ins. It's a slap on her face for me not to even take part in voting. So that's my part. That's how I know I can do a better job of being part of my community meetings and everything. Just to know exactly everyone in my area.
Yeah. And I think it's first is knowledge, because everybody puts so much emphasis on presidential election and stuff like that, but you're not doing anything about every other seat, like you would say, Kiki, that goes underneath it.
Right.
And so it's like, if we know we have this electoral college, if we know that these seats these are the seats that matter for the presidency, like these are the people, someone else is going to talk on behalf of me. But if I didn't even vote for my House seat, if I didn't even vote for these smaller seats, then how can I even say I had a chance in changing something? Because you're not even voting for those small things. So it's like getting education out there to say, this is what it means to vote. Like, this is the chain of command. So these people affect these people, and then these people will in general, and at the end run, go ahead and actually put their vote in for the presidential election.
Okay.
And then Joe.
Did you call me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So yeah, I think I saw Ms. Carmen comment about trusting the voting system, and I would say I think it has to be more transparency with the vote counting. They have the resources to let us see them count the votes. All we know is the total they put on the screen. I think if more people felt like it counted because they could see it come on the screen, I think we have better voting turnout.
Joe, 20 seconds.
As a result, some of the conversations that we had about education, that's based on our voting. At some point, somebody voted to say, not on a presidential level, but on your community level, as some voted and said it's a good idea to keep city kids have your community school, and then somebody who did or what have you, they cross town to have this experience. So it's all about, and someone commented about not knowing if it counts. We're not gonna really count for anything if you continue to question, because you're never gonna to see the progress of what you did and how many other people are vote really count, or how do you know the totals they're putting in are accurate, or it's a question mark all the way around. People are doing the same thing and you just don't do it.
That's good. That's good. Ty, 20 seconds. Edward, 20 seconds.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what has been said. It also falls on us to be knowledgeable about what these elections actually mean, and don't just start, during the debates, but prior to that, these campaigns start earlier than that. So just see what it is that you're voting for, the issues that you agree or disagree with. And remember that you're not just voting for the president, you're voting for House seats, Senate seats, and Supreme Court justices. So it's going to have like a multi-layered impact whenever you do make that decision.
Edward,
I'm sorry. Are we still following the handout that you gave me? Because that's the question. I don't know if it's that question specifically or there's another question in there. I'm trying to piece it together with y'all answers.
Edward, he think about who he voted for. How do we safeguard ourselves from deceit and make sure that our vote does have influence?
Okay, I was looking at the right question. All right. When I had seen that question, me personally, I don't, whether it's on the local level or on the presidential level, I feel like we as a community, we have to find the financial resources with whoever group of people that we trust to be able to support whatever politician we're trying to, put into office and put into position. When you look at the conglomerate financial institutions and the banks, you see that they're betting tons of millions of dollars on both sides because they don't necessarily know who's going to win, but them supporting both sides heavily ensures that whoever get in office, hey, come here. Yeah, that 10 million, 20 million came from me. You said you was going to do X, Y, Z. And so I think for us as a Black community, we have to, pull our resources together with all the entrepreneurs that we got, whether it's in our local cities or, people, at the higher ranks, to be able to financially support whatever politicians we want to see in position in a lump sum to then therefore make them, be held accountable for taking our dollars and saying they're going to do X, Y, Z for us.
Got it. So listen, we have, go ahead. Yeah, we have come to our end. We have one more segment. It is the cusp of this whole panel. Has the dream died? I'm going to play with Dr. King, the ending of his speech, and our panel is going to come back 30 seconds, wrap up. Has the dream died?
So even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up.
Man, what was that?
Live out the true meaning of its
like
creed.
An inclusion bill that they had.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today a dream that one day down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification. One day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together.
Has the dream died? We'll start with Pastor Butler.
All right, 30 seconds. So to me, any dream has to have three things. First, it has to be based in reality. So a person who is saying something like, I have a dream one day that we're going to get our food free and that housing will be free is not realistic. It never happened. So I think his dream has a basis of reality. There must be a structured discipline to get to the dream. And so I think that he laid those things out for us, what we have to do. But lastly, I think any dream has to have a community of people who won't let it die. And I think platforms like this and people who continue the conversation of racism and inequality and those things help to keep this dream living. So I would answer it, it has not died because of platforms like PB and just even your local churches, the things they do on Martin Luther King Day and Black History and those things like that. So I would say no.
Awesome. Edward, you on mute.
Oh, sorry. Trying to be quick. I kind of like went back and forth, like, is this a dream that if he were alive today, he would still be in heavy pursuit of? When you think about the his maybe I want to say his last speech with the Other America, and him just speaking to, hey, I know we made progress with the right to vote and, trying to break into schools and end segregation. But it seemed, in that speech, he began to talk about it's a lot easier to integrate schools and public parks than it is for them to give us, good income, a stable income and, good jobs and so forth. And so have we made progress? Absolutely. Is the dream, specifically speaking to the question, has the dream died? I would say no. We have enough people, maybe not enough, but we have a good amount of people from all across the world that's fighting for people's, fighting for people to be more aware of like how much far we have to go. And because of that reason, I would say the dream hasn't died.
Alonzo?
No, I don't think the dream has died. I think today we have a lot more representation that we see. And so that kind of like, helps others to, really push towards the future. I think that we should put a lot more, like Jamel, you said, to whom much is given, much is required. I think that we should maybe hold certain people to the fire a little bit more because they are representatives of the community. A lot of our children and just, people out there like Mr. Sexy Red, Drake, Nicki Minaj, Travis Scott, Burna Boy, all these people. Maybe if they, did a little bit more as to help towards that dream, the young people that's coming up today, that they would really look at it and, have a little bit more fire under them to continue Dr. King's dream. But it hasn't died. We're still in the race.
Awesome. Ty?
No, it has not died. It's been turbulent. It's been met with a lot of resistance because you do have that section of America that rejects change and wants to keep our people down because they benefit off of that. They capitalize off of it. But no, it hasn't died. I'm still alive, and a testament to that is us being on this platform, being able to discuss it. because unfortunately, obviously, Martin Luther King, in his pursuit of getting that dream to come to fruition, was killed. So we've made a lot of progress, but still a long way to go.
I agree.
Absolutely, guys.
Yeah.
Joe.
I do not believe the dream people never believed in the dream. And but there is hope for this to be incorporated, as everyone needs to take part of the dream and incorporate it in their personal goals.
So
that's good. Yeah, I don't same thing. I don't believe that the dream has died. I just think that just like with goals and everything like that, you need to revisit and say, okay, where are we at? What progress have we made? And what do we need to do to continue on pushing the dream further and accomplishing what was set out from the beginning?
I also don't believe it has died. I do feel as though it's time for some new blood, for some new people to come into, and I'm not just talking just from the top that everybody can see. It really starts at the ground and moves way up. Everybody, like Joe was just saying, everybody taking part in order for us to put this in our lives and make it move forward.
Awesome.
As far as me, do I think the dream has died? I don't think it's died. I think it's still in like progress. I don't think that it's, has been completely fulfilled, and we're still a work in progress of it. And as I'm like reading some of, what he said in that last excerpt, like the first part, like that, his dream that all men are created equal. I don't believe that has been accomplished. During our conversation here tonight, we know that there's still some disparity between, blacks, whites, minorities, or whatever have you. Are there, things in the dream that has happened? Yes. Little boys and girls can hold hands together and, sit together. We have seen that happen. But overall, we still have a lot of work to do. And I think if Martin Luther King was here today and alive and able, he will still be on the fighting for justice. So we have to continue, in that legacy. People have died for us to have a right to vote. People have died for our freedom. And we have to continue to live out what was set forth all those years ago.
To all of you, to this incredible panel, thank you so much for your time. Has the dream died? The dream has not died. The dreamer may have died, but I think it's on each of us to catch the vision, catch what he saw. And each of us has a responsibility to run with it. Even though we may disagree. Amos says, how can two walk together except they agree? Doesn't mean we always have to think the same thing. That word agree means to meet by appointment, right? And so if I believe my steps are ordered by God, even in my disagreements with my brothers and sisters, I believe that our steps are ordered by God so that we can reach a common goal and purpose. And so I want to thank all of you. Pastor Christ Butler, South Bend, Indiana, Edward McFarland, Houston, Texas, Alonzo Tony, ATL, Todd D. Butler, New York, Joanne, all the way from Chi-Town, Christian and Latasha Mitchell, all the way from Charlotte, North Carolina. PB, all of you watching on Facebook, YouTube, on our website, can we give a shout out to this incredible panel?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you guys
for joining us. This
so
was
much.
Great.
Yeah. To our director of engagement, Cassie, working behind the scenes, making sure all of this happen. Thank you so much. Do not stop dreaming. Whatever you do, don't stop dreaming. There is hope, and we can achieve the goal of a better tomorrow if we put our intentions and our focus on today and what can I do personally to make myself better. The responsibility falls ultimately on me.
Right. And make sure y'all vote.
Yeah.
How about you do that? Start with that, folks.
Yeah.
Make sure y'all vote. But thank y'all so much for joining us tonight for this great conversation of has the dream died? And we all agree that it has not. So we thank y'all again for joining us. Thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for tuning in. If y'all didn't share this already, I don't know why. I don't know what you're waiting for. Please go ahead
Cause
and
they
share.
hard-headed. And that's what Martin was trying to tell the people.
I know what they say. Hard head makes a sore. No,
See?
we can't say that. She ain't saying.
Family, as we always say, go with God. God will go with you. We will
love
see
y'all.
you
Take
next
care.
time. Take care.
Good night, everybody.
That was a ball.